single save file for the past 3 years of real life time. I believe I started it in 2021 while I was still kind of COVID lockdown, and I've kept playing ever since. I have played Sims a lot over the course of my life, but this save file is the longest and the most complex I've ever had. I had tried to attempt a 100 baby challenge once, and the lore for that is a little messier, but hopefully you guys will enjoy. Maybe this will inspire you for your Sim save or whatever creative storytelling you are working on. Or I hope that it relaxes you or bores you to sleep, as it so often does with other people that I tell this to. So, this is a hyperfixation of mine. It's one of my special interests, and so it's my channel. I will talk about what I want to talk about. Before we get started, this video is going to contain whispering, mouse clicking, probably stomach sounds from my stomach, and possibly a lawnmower in the background because my neighbor's cutting their lawn. I also will probably make and continue to make hand sounds as I've been doing when I'm not using the mouse. This is my first time using the microphone on my computer, and I can hear myself the way I've set it up so that I can make sure I'm not being loud for you. But it's also disorienting, so I apologize if I'm talking at a slower, weirder sounding pace. Hopefully I'll get used to it over time. Okay, without further ado, welcome to my family tree. Now this is made in Plumtree. Now the original Plumtree website has closed down, but somebody has recreated it with plumtreesims.com, and this is what I'm using currently. So we're gonna get started with my first sim. Now, I have notes, so I'll be reading off of them because I had to write it all down. I don't have the memory for all of this. It's been years. So I have more information about Sims than others. My game is heavily modded, and what am I trying to say? I have like a mod that prevents Sims from leaving my family tree. However, I didn't get it until much later on into playing this. So actually I had to go into my save file and look at all of the Sims in my save file and find the ones that were descendants of these Sims. So it took a long time to piece this all together. I am a crazy person, but it's the spreadsheets and it fills me with joy, and I'm happy to have all of this information to share with everybody else. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. We'll be starting with Corey here. The pink Sim. Oh, you can't see my mouse. I didn't turn that on. Oh, that might be a problem. Can I do that while I'm recording? I don't know. Okay, well, the Sim on the left, his name is Corey. I'll try to focus them. Oh, this is zoomed in. Okay. Well, this is Corey. She was a video game streamer and celebrity. She actually started because I just wanted to I got a bunch of new CC custom content mods for my game, and I wanted to make a character with it. So that's where she came from. But it turned into she became a celebrity, and then I kind of stopped playing the save. And when I decided I wanted to have a long-term legacy save with many generations, I decided she was a good starting point because I didn't want to have to start from scratch. So her lore is, and with the Sims in this save, fully made up as I'm playing, mostly to keep it exciting for me. So most things happen when I get bored. So there's really no big plan for each sim other than when they're born. I kind of decide what career they're going to take, especially if they're the heir to the generation, quote unquote, which is like the heir to the throne, or the sim I'll be playing, which in most instances I try just to have it be the firstborn. But sometimes the sim's like backstory that I've created is more interesting and I choose them instead, which has happened quite a few times. So Corey was going to like a celebrity function, and a group of paparazzi were following her and taking her picture, which was fine. She was used to it. But a celebrity, like a paparazzi, like pushed her, and that's when she met Dane, who was a paparazzi himself. He swept in and saved her from falling, protected her from like the really annoying paparazzi, and they fell in love. And it turns out that, it turns out that he actually was a lawyer and the like owner of like a very important, very rich law firm. But he wanted a break from that kind of like career, so he became a paparazzi. And so they fell in love. He went back to being a lawyer, and they fell in love, had kids, got married, which takes us to our next line of generations here. It's really big, and I'll start on this end with Mitchell, and I forget her name, Thalia. Okay, so Mitchell is the firstborn of Corey and Dane. And from a very, very young age, he was told that he would be inheriting his father's law practice. So, with two very rich, very not strict, but firm parents, he was brought up as someone who was worthy of inheriting all of this, like, fortune, I guess. So, he had a very dull childhood with not many friends, and he didn't have a lot of time to like enjoy himself because he had to study. This was a arranged marriage that Corey and Dane put together, and Mitchell was never truly happy, but he did find joy in his siblings. But he mostly ignored his youngest brother, Vance, which I'll introduce to you. Next, we have Steph, who is a wizard or like a magic user. She is a queer woman, and she was always like the comedic relief. All of her family loved her. She was very sweet, very kind. She had no bad blood with anyone. One of those like just really sweet, funny, down-to-earth people. And she married Finley here. The two of them. Then we have, oh my god, it's so long. Sorry, there you go. Then we have Vance, who is the third born. Sorry, I keep hitting my mic. Who is the third? Oh, my ad block. Vance, who is the third born, who, because he was third born and the second son, he was often just ignored by his family, and actually Corey and Dane just kind of ignored him outright. Mitchell ignored him too for the most part, and it was Steph who mostly raised him. But they're very close in age, so you can, is a problem. So being ignored by most of his family, Vance grew up being a bit of a troublemaker, and he was doing poorly in school, misbehaving, that sort of thing. And he was miserable for most of his life until he met Taku, his husband, who was Mitchell's friend that he brought over from high school one day. Now, in my head canon, like Mitchell, Steph, and Vance are only like Vance, for the first time in his life, found happiness in Taku and was able to like kind of bring himself together. He was going to become like an athlete, and so on. I'll come back to this because Vance is actually the heir. It's funny because I made the rule about the firstborn child initially, and then I got really into Vance's like plot and lore, so I decided to go with him instead. And then finally, we have Ellie. Moving forward, if you see like a white circle like this, it's because this was before I had the family tree mod, and I lost those Sims, so they probably were like random Sims that I found, and I was like, okay, you guys get married, and then they died, and then they disappeared from the family tree, and then you can't get that back, so they're unknown. But Ellie is the last born of the family. She was the stereotypically youngest child, born a couple years after Vance, and was absolutely the favorite, very spoiled. She acted so nice around her family, but tortured Vance and was a huge reason for Vance's like misbehaving. There's not much to say about her. In all honesty and transparency, she was an accident. She was an accident in my gameplay. I didn't intend for Corey and Dane to have another kid, but it happens. So going back to Vance. So Vance and Taku got married, bought a house together. Oops, I'm so sorry. I keep hitting the microphone. And they bought a house, and then they end up through a surrogate. Through a surrogate, quote unquote. But in actuality, I just like in The Sims, like Cass menu did like the genetics, like for a kid, like the genetics selection thing. But in the plot, like there was science, and they had a surrogate, and they combined their genetics so that they, blah 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 blah. I wanted the genetics to stay the same because I was really interested, and still am, to see how each generation looks different. And I'll get back to that in a second. This would be a mistake of mine, combining Vance and Taku together instead of just like adopting, but it's okay. So they had a surrogate, and then they birthed Toby, who is this right here, this guy in the green, who was an only child for a very long time, and I'll get back to that. But on their first New Year's together as a family, Toby had been born. He was like a toddler, I guess, at that point, technically. But on their first New Year's in their new house, Taku had a medical emergency and died in the living room. In actuality, in gameplay, I purposely killed him off because I wanted Vance to have like a villain origin story. Sorry. I'm laughing. I wanted Vance to have a villain. Sorry. I wanted Vance to have a villain origin story because I wanted plot. So I killed Taku, and I think his official death is actually like death by rabbits or whatever in game. But in my head, he had like a freak medical emergency and just like died in the living room. I shouldn't laugh, but it's funny. Anyways, so Taku dies, and Vance, as obviously his like one sole purpose in life was to like be with Taku. He has that ripped from him, and his whole life spirals. He quits his job, turns to a life of crime, drugs, and alcohol, and spirals. I even So, Vance and Toby's relationship really took a turn at this point because Vance was a very absent, very terrible father. He was never like outwardly abusive or rude or mean, to Toby purposely, but he was neglecting him, and they would fight because, they didn't have a whole lot of money, and Vance was like doing crime and stuff. So anyway, while Toby was in high school, he met Brooke, which is this girl in the skull sweater, and they fell in love. Oops. And Brooke actually had a terrible home life herself and needed to leave her parents because it was becoming too much for her. So she proposed to Toby that she move in with them and she could take care of the house instead of paying rent. And they agreed. Now Brooke moving in with them created enough of a buffer for Toby and Vance to finally start to heal their relationship. And if it wasn't for Brooke moving in, they would not be the family that they became later on. So in some ways, Taku saved Vance, but Brooke saved Vance and Toby. So it's really quite sweet. So after Brooke moved in, Vance was able to get his life back together. He still worked as a crime boss because he was getting paid a lot, but he did it respectfully, and he grew into a very sweet old man. He never retired from his job. Oh no, that's not true. I had him retire like a week before he died so that they could go on vacation. I'll get to that. But while Vance was getting better, he decided, because him and Taku never got the opportunity to grow the family that they initially wanted, he adopted this girl here, the redhead, named Danny. Sorry, I keep hitting the mic. And he was able to have his son and his daughter the way that him and Taku always but dreamed of. And Danny ended up marrying Amy, but they're not really important to the plot. So Toby and Brooke went on to have 4 children. Again, I didn't really intend to have that many kids, but it happens. So they had Finley, who was a salary man and the eldest of his family, who married his high school sweetheart, Lena, who is an interior designer. They are the heir branch, so I'll come back to them. Next was Corey, named after Vance's mother, but instead of with a K, it's with a C. I don't know why I did that. I think it's because Vance forgave his parents and was like, okay, well, I want to rewrite this name instead of it wasn't honoring her, it was to rewrite the name or something like that. I don't know. Sorry, my chair. And he married Christina here. Then we have Orion, or Ryan for short. He was Corey's twin, so Orion and Corey are actually twins. And he was the outdoorsy kind of guy. Corey was a computer programmer, I believe. And then they had Theodore, or Theo, which is the guy in the hat there. And he was the youngest of the family, and he married Kumiko. So, going back to Finley. Now, I do have minor lore for most of these other characters, which I could go over in another video, but for today, I'm just going to take you through the played heir, quote-unquote, line. So, Finley and Lena, against high school sweethearts, the way I play it is I usually find them a partner in high school just because it's easier, because they go to school and they meet friends. And then I make them fall in love, and then that's who they stay with. So that's most of the relationships you'll find in most of these branches, but it's not always the case. So they got married, bought an old warehouse, and made it into like a home, because Lena is a interior designer and a fashion designer. She wanted to like flip a project kind of thing. So they ended up having 4 children as well, which again was not, I only wanted them to have the first 2, and then she got pregnant with twins, and that was like a problem for me, but okay, it's fine. So next in the purple here we have Keaton Jacob, or KJ. Their pronouns are they, them, and they were a yoga instructor and a professional like Reiki teacher, that kind of thing. Like they were very zen, very like in tune with life and the world. And they were married to Noelle, who was human and turned into a vampire. Like, I'll come back to that though. Then Finley and Lena had Nyla, who is a businesswoman, a very like CEO, don't fuck with me type. And this is she got married to Mackenzie. I don't really care about him. Then they have Genevieve and Valerie, which are twins, who ended up, just for shits and giggles, I made them marry another set of twins, just for fun. But Genevieve, or Jen, is a sporty person, and Valerie is like the girl next door. I think she was a teacher. Now, the age gap between KJ, Nyla, and then the twins is quite broad. KJ already had a child with Noelle by the time Valerie and Jen were born. So, I'm the next, I'll show you in a second, but they grew up with Briella, who I'll talk about in very, very briefly in a second. So, it's one of those, like, you're, like, the same age as your aunts, technically, the type of thing that happens sometimes with age gaps in siblings. But yeah, so, there's not much to say about Finley and Lena, in all honesty. This was one of those, like, I just wanted to, like, play the game type things, but KJ and Noelle are some of my favorites. So, before I get any farther, I just want to point out that KJ, Finley, Corey, Orion, Theodore, and Toby all have the like exact same face as Taku here, which is like, it plagued his face, plagued my sim save for like, we're talking Genevieve's children have his face here, and I'm pretty sure somewhere, yes, Minos, who I'll talk about a little bit later, Minos' face is even like that. So from generation 2 to generation like what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so many generations Taku's face plagued my sims, and I was like in a bad streak of like only having boys, which is fine, I don't mind that, but like I was only getting boys born and they all looked like Taku. It was torture. Anyways, this generation it breaks, but I just want to point that out because it was like in the game several generations, but in real time I was like staring at Taku's face for like a year and a half of gameplay of like playing The Sims. So I was really, really happy when finally, when KJ and Noelle had their first kid, they had Briella, which is this like beautiful girl on the left here. I will get to this complicated relationship in a second, but they had Briella. They had, so I remember now the plot. So in high school, Noelle was very much like your goth GF type. Like, she was just like really cool, really pretty, really like mysterious. And for some reason, KJ was really drawn to her. After they had their first child, Briella, Noelle decided that she wanted to pursue a life of vampirism, I guess, and become a vampire. It was something that always like interested her, and it was no surprise to KJ. And of course, they allowed her to do it because it's not his life. He wanted to remain human, though, so she had a really tough decision of like, do I want to live and grow old with him, or do I want something more? Ultimately, she wanted something more, but that doesn't mean they didn't spend the rest of their lives devoted to each other. Then, after she became a vampire, they had their son Icarus here, which I think you can see the resemblance. Sorry, my stomach. He was born a vampire, so he's always been a vampire. He kind of has an evil streak to him because of the vampire blood that he doesn't suppress, he doesn't fight it. And he fell in love with a girl named Alice in high school. Then they had Minos, who is kind of like the skater boy type. And, oops, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna try to remember to lower the volume of all of these mic hits, hopefully. Minos is like a skater boy, and he is not a vampire. And then they had Theseus, who is like a very sweet boy next door, cottagecore, animal lover type. And he is a vampire, but he did not get the genetics that of like Noelle's like very dark hair and red eyes. He got all of KJ's looks, and he has curly hair. So, I'm so sorry about my stomach. I know you can hear it. Anyways, so, now we're moving on to Briella. So, she was raised with her aunts, Val and Jen, all at the same time, so they were all very close. She was always interested in computers and decided she wanted to become a professional gamer. So she went to university to join the varsity video game team. I think she got a drama degree. She wasn't there for the degree, she just wanted the job opportunity after. So she became a professional gamer. She also met her husband, Dana, not Dane. So there's a similarity here where the character is a gamer and then marrying someone with a very similar name, but I promise it's a completely different story. She met Dane in high school. They broke up when they went to university because Dana wanted to like find something else, explore. So already kind of a red flag, but she was okay with it. She said, fine, whatever. She became a very successful professional gamer, and when she came into a bit of fame, Dana came back and said, hey babe, I missed you. And she said, oh my god, I missed you too. Now, from then on, they actually had a very wonderful, loving relationship that ended with them having 6 children, which I can finally fit on one screen here. So they had Gwendolyn, the girl with the bandana, and she was like a horse girl. So around this time is when the horse expansion came out, and I was like, I want to try play the horse expansion. So that's why I had her. Then she got married to her girlfriend Shelby. Then they had Edgar, who is actually twins with Rhea here on the side. And I'm realizing now that this family tree is a bit out of date because they don't have Rhea's husband on this. But that's okay. It's close enough. But Edgar married Dahlia, his goth GF there. So Gwendolyn owns a ranch where she like takes care of horses, and Edgar is a poet and a writer, like Edgar Allan Poe. Rhea is an astronaut. She's incredibly smart. She's doing rocket science at a very early age. Then Cheyenne, who is an archaeologist, she's kind of scatterbrained and nerdy, and she's actually the heir to my safe, because I realized like the horse stuff was like pretty fun but limited, and I had actually never done any of like the archaeology stuff from the Jungle Pack, so I wanted to do that instead, and I really didn't realize how much of it there was that you could actually do. So and she had a relationship with Branson. I will come back to that. Then there is Gail, who was a surgeon. Now Cheyenne is, and from Gwendolyn to Cheyenne is about a 3-year age gap across the 4 of them. And then there's another several couple of years later, like I think Gail and Will were in elementary school while Cheyenne was doing university, so there is a bit of an age gap. But Will here is a high school dropout and became a lifeguard because he just loves the ocean. He had a call to the water, and then that's when he met Ingrid, his wife. And she's a mermaid, very like aerial kind of core. So Will and Gail are twins. They are named after Will and Gail from Baldur's Gate 3, but I did not name them that. A friend of mine did, and it was before I played Baldur's Gate, and I realized that like this might be a hot take, but Will and Gail are kind of annoying. So it's okay though. I do like their characters, and I don't mind that they're in my Sims game as like namesakes. So, okay, back to this. So, when Cheyenne, so before Will and Gail were born, Briella found out that she was pregnant, and her hours were very opposite of Dana. So Dana is a food or art critic, I can't remember. And he's kind of like a snotty, like judgmental guy, so the critic profession felt perfect for him. Briella worked nights because of like competitions and stuff, and Dana worked during the day because like, you know, he had to like do his day job. And what Briella didn't know was that Dana had been having an affair with the maid. I forget her name. Yumiko. While Briella wasn't at home. So, on the day that Briella found out that she was pregnant with twins, she was very excited. So she came home early from work because she took the pregnancy test at work. She came home early only to find Dana kissing Yumiko in the kitchen, and her heart sank because she found who she thought was a devoted husband, cheating on her behind her back in their own home. So Briella divorced him, broke up with him like on the spot, and was left with 4 children and 2 on the way. Whoops, sorry. The kicker is, now I can talk about this in another video. Yumiko, what I didn't know was, so all of these other Sims in the family tree, unless they're in the main household, I don't play them past, like, I don't play them, period. And what I didn't realize was that Yumiko was actually married to the child of Orion, and I believe, oh fuck, I forget, they're like, oh, I'm gonna have to figure it out again. So Alec is the maid's husband's name, is, so their cousin, so like, he's like her like someone who was like distantly related to Briella. And they ended up having an affair, Yumiko and Dana, and having 4 kids, unbeknownst to Alex, on top of their 1 kid. So it was kind of like, it's kind of dramatic. I didn't control that. But when I found that, I was like, holy crap, that's insane. That's like The Sims taken it to an extreme. But anyway, so next we have Cheyenne, who's an archaeologist. She went to university to become a professor, and she is very smart, very independent, not really interested in like tying the knot with anyone. But she accidentally, so she was dating Branson. He's a professor as well. I forget what his profession is. And in all honesty, the reason I just didn't want to like, in all honesty, just like because I needed the sim to have a kid, because like that's how the heirs work. But I didn't want her to adopt, because I was like, well, it's kind of like, I just want 1 kid, and I'd be kind of interested to like see what the genetics look like. So I was like, okay, well, what is the plot here? And so they had a relationship, and they were dating, and they decided to have a kid, but they didn't want to get married, so they were just like parents and like a couple, but they weren't like super committed, because they were both really committed to their like work. So that's kind of the plot there. It's kind of just, I just didn't want to like play as another sim, because I had the plan of having, when Briella became an old woman, which she currently is right now, I wanted her to move in with Cheyenne in like a granny suite, and I just didn't want to take care of like 3 adult sims and a child. So I prioritized Briella, who I have a very emotional connection to, because I played her over like the random sim that I picked out for Cheyenne. But anyways, they had Nathaniel, which is the sim in the glasses down here, and he is destined to become, I think, a doctor, because I haven't played as a doctor yet, and I never actually played as Gale here. So yeah, and that's where we are now. Nathaniel is still a child in my save, and I'm quite enjoying it. But I had to like, it's so sad. I had like so many gigabytes of mods that with one of the recent updates, it actually like fucked everything up, and there was no way to figure out what mods were causing me issues, because I have like so many. So I just decided to restart all of my mods, which is fine, because I saved a lot of my like Sims custom content like for Cass, but I didn't save a lot of the like interior decoration stuff that like I painstakingly found over the years. So their house used to be so cool, and I have to fix it now, but it's whatever. But yeah, so that was the family tree lineage here. As you can tell, I only took a very like small route, just 1 branch down the whole tree. But as you can see, like over here, like Steph had a huge family that branched out, and even over here, like all of Toby's kids had families that are like developing even now to this day that I have to go in and check on. And so it's like there's lots going on, that there's more to talk about. My rule is, when I find a sim that has been born into the family, I will update their appearance, and I give them the last name Elm, purely because otherwise it'd be hard to track everybody. But if everybody has a last name Elm, then I know not to like make them date my sim, or you know, stuff like that, and I can keep it organized. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this didn't bore you too much, and I hope it was able to help relax you. I'm sorry